So now that you know that you are going to be homeschooling, road schooling, world schooling, whatever it is you're doing, you have to pick a way or a method to present learning. So there's a ton of ways that you can do that. One of the ways is through picking a style. So all of these that are listed on here are different styles. So classical would be what they consider it's really, really heavy, reading heavy, and it's pretty rigorous. So a lot of people will join community groups, classical groups, and so they go through it kind of like a homeschool group or homeschool co-op is what they call those. And they really focus on historically based, what they call the classics or the great books, or they use the Bible. The Charlotte Mason is a Christian homestyle style that is really focusing on short periods of study. So you just do like 15 to 20 minute study times, or as they get older, you can do a little bit more. And you do some teaching, but you also incorporate nature walks, nature journals, you bring in history. So it's a lot of observation and conversation instead of just doing like worksheets all the time. The Montessori method is really student-based. I really like this. Before I knew what Montessori was, because I grew up in a real rural area and we didn't have Montessori schools. We still don't have any Montessori schools there. And so I didn't even know about this when I had this concept and this idea that things need to be passion-based and interest-based and kids need to be given freedom. And Montessori is really probably the closest type of educational system that I've seen that relates to what I like to do. So it's taking the unstructured blocks of time and taking kids that are mixed ages, so it's not all just 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, so they kind of mix the ages, and they do a lot of indirect study using this, what they call playtime or guided teaching time, but kids really have a lot more freedom in just being kids and learning from typical kid experiences. I really like it. Unschooling. So there's two types of unschooling. There's kind of guided unschooling and there's radical unschooling. I do a lot of unschooling. So unschooling, I do guided unschooling. So it's kind of like taking their interest and pulling it in. It's when we were on the road, we road schooled and I used unschooling. So while we were driving, I'd look at the clouds and I'd be like, oh, those look like cool clouds. Let's find out what kind of clouds they were. Or if we were driving through the mountains, we would look up about the different mountains and why different mountains look different ways. Or if we went to a historical museum, we would listen to some of the documentaries as we drove to wherever it was that we were going. So it was kind of like we just learned as we went, and things changed depending on what our environment was like that day, what we were being exposed to. And so they were still learning, but it wasn't really very structured at all. And then the Waldorf approach is really kind of blocks of time. And so they do in-depth studies every 3 to 6 weeks. And it really helps keep them focused. So I like that. It's kind of like the interest-based thing. But I don't put a timeline on interest-based. It could take 3 to 6 weeks. Your kid could be interested for 6 months or a year. And depending on the topic or the subject, you could cover your math, English, history, social studies on whatever that topic is for as long as the interest is there. So, but I like that approach. It's a real interest-based. The unit studies, very similar. It's you pick units or interest and you build a lesson or a unit that takes as long as it needs to. And eclectic is kind of where I'm at too. You know, you pull in a little bit of each of these. So maybe some things are online because I don't do math or English very well. I like reading and creative English, but I don't do the hardcore grammar kind of stuff. But math especially. So that kind of stuff I would do online. I would have an app. I would have a teacher. I would have other ways to measure because I'm not even going to touch the math. I don't want to. I can't want to is what we say at our house. I can't want to. But so I'm eclectic. So for that, that's how I would do that. But for other things, I'm pretty much unschooling, eclectic, interest-based, pretty free changing with the ways that I do that. And then I pull stuff from online. I pull book stuff. There's actually groups that are just totally video based. So you could go pull and create an entire curriculum based on YouTube videos, on Netflix videos. You can create an entire thing on maybe a museum that's in town that you can go to, and experiences locally where kids can interact with mentors. There's so many different ways that you can do this, that you can create a learning environment and a learning experience for your kids. So after you've kind of realized that you're going to do the homeschool thing, then you look at all the different styles and methods of presenting it, and you got to dig through all that stuff. Then you also have to decide, as you're digging through, are you wanting a secular worldview kind of curriculum or a Christian? So sometimes people do both. And there's no right or wrong way. There's people that don't want the secular focused curriculum. They just want everything Bible-based. And there are curriculums out there. Everything can be built upon Scripture and the Bible, and vice versa. There's some that don't want the Scripture and the Bible to be what everything is based on. And so they just pick what they call secular, which is non-Christian based curriculum. So it's either way, you have that choice. So that's just something, if you see that while you're out there looking, if you're looking for Christian-based curriculum, then you can look that's out there. The Charlotte Mason, I think, is really Christian-based, and a lot of the classical stuff is too. And then secular, there's plenty of curriculum out there that is just very traditional in their approach. It's not based on the Bible or Scripture or any religion. So you have that choice on which type of curriculum, and you can pull some that's Christian, some that's not. It's up to you. You get that choice.